Okay, so get this to talk about pagers. Yeah, pagers. Like the things your doctor used to carry. Turns out they're not just outdated tech. They can be, well, weapons of terror. At least that's what it seems like went down in Lebanon.
Pagers as weapons. That's a new one.
Right. It's crazy. Thousands of people injured. And it all traces back to these pagers. We're diving deep into this whole thing today. We've got the Washington Post article, and we're going to try to piece together exactly what happened and like what it all means, in the grand scheme of things.
Definitely. So, where do we start? What actually happened?
So picture this. You're in Lebanon, everything seems, normal, and then suddenly pagers start exploding, like all over the country.
Hold on. Back up. Pagers are exploding. How does that even work?
That's the million-dollar question, right? But it gets even wilder. These weren't just random pagers. They were all newly distributed to members of Hezbollah.
Hezbollah. Okay, now it's starting to make a little more sense. But still exploding pagers. This is insane.
Yeah, and the Washington Post article, it doesn't hold back. They've got eyewitness accounts, people describing the chaos, the injuries. It's pretty intense stuff. Over 2,800 people injured. Can you believe that? Hospitals were completely overwhelmed.
Wow. That's a lot of casualties. And you said these were all Hezbollah members.
That's right. And the details, man, they're pretty gruesome. The article talks about deep cuts, people losing fingers. It paints a really grim picture of what went down.
Yeah, that's rough. So I mean, this Hezbollah connection, got to be a reason they were using pagers in the first place, right? It's not exactly 2002 anymore.
Exactly. And that's where things get really interesting. Yeah, like who even uses pagers anymore? It's like they're stuck in the 90s or something, right?
You'd think so. But when you think about it, all the surveillance tech out there, it's all digital, right? Every phone call, every text, it's all trackable.
So pagers are like off the grid, like some kind of spy technology.
Exactly. They're analog, low tech, almost impossible to intercept. It's kind of brilliant when you think about it.
Okay, but brilliant or not, they still managed to turn those things into bombs. I mean, the Washington Post article, it says, explosions were reported all over Lebanon. This wasn't just like a one-off thing.
Yeah, definitely not. This was a coordinated attack, no question about it. And what makes it even more unsettling is what happened afterward.
Afterwards, what do you mean?
Okay, so after the explosions, a message started circulating among Hezbollah members. It said, each one who received a new pager, throw it away.
Whoa. Like a warning.
Exactly. They knew those pagers were dangerous, and they had to act fast to prevent any more casualties.
That's chilling.
It is, and it really makes you wonder how they pulled this off. Honestly, there are two main theories, and they're both pretty wild.
Okay, hit me. What are we talking about here?
All right, so theory number one, pre-planted explosives.
You mean like someone tampered with those pagers before they were even given out?
Exactly. Someone got into Hezbollah's supply chain and rigged those pagers to explode, which, if you think about it...
That's insane. I mean, how do you even begin to pull something like that off? Talk about a security breach.
Right. The level of sophistication, the planning, the access required, it's almost unfathomable. But if it's true, it points to a major intelligence operation, maybe even state-sponsored.
Okay, hold up. What's the other theory then?
All right, buckle up because this one's even crazier. What if those pagers were detonated remotely?
Remotely, you mean like someone just pushed a button and boom, all those pagers went off?
Exactly. Think about the kind of technology that would take. To remotely trigger thousands of devices all at once across an entire country, that's next-level stuff.
It's terrifying, honestly.
Yeah.
And then there's the other elephant in the room, right?
You mean Israel?
Yeah. Complete silence from them, no confirmation, no denial, nothing. It's deafening, isn't it?
It is. And that silence, well, it speaks volumes.
I mean, you've got to wonder what they're not saying.
Oh.
Right. It just adds another layer to this whole thing. But here's the thing. We can't forget about everything else going on.
Right. This didn't just come out of nowhere. Things have been heating up between Israel and Hezbollah for a while now.
Yeah, the border clashes, people being forced from their homes. It's all connected.
Exactly. It's all connected. We've seen reports of fighting along the border, displacement of communities. It's a tense situation. And this pager attack, if that's what it was, it could be a tipping point.
You used the term supply chain attack earlier. I got to say, that sounds like something out of a movie, not something that's happening with, like, pagers of all things.
It does, doesn't it? But if this is a supply chain attack, and that's a big if, it's a pretty worrying sign.
So, like, how does that even work? What is a supply chain attack exactly?
So imagine a chain, right? Each link represents a step in getting something from point A to point B. In this case, those pagers. A supply chain attack targets one of those links, exploits a weakness to disrupt the whole chain.
And in this case, someone messed with the pages themselves.
Potentially. It's about finding the weak link, no matter how small or insignificant it might seem.
It's kind of scary when you think about it. I mean, if someone can turn a pager into a weapon, what's next?
Exactly. It raises some really important questions about global security. If something as low-tech as a pager can be exploited like this, what does that mean for everything else?
So where do we go from here? What happens next?
Well, in the short term, I think we're going to see a lot more security, and not just with Hezbollah. This whole thing exposed a vulnerability, and you can bet that everyone's going to be reevaluating their protocols.
Makes sense. But what about the bigger picture?
That's the million-dollar question. This attack, whoever was behind it, it just deepened the distrust between Israel and Hezbollah. It's a powder keg, and it wouldn't take much to set it off.
So we're left with more questions than answers, huh?
Pretty much.
Well, that's a thought, isn't it? We started with exploding pagers, and somehow we've ended up talking about global instability.
That's often how these deep dives go.
That's the truth. But hey, that's why we do what we do, right? We try to connect the dots, make sense of the chaos, and sometimes the most unlikely stories are the ones that teach us the most valuable lessons.
I'll say.
All right, everyone, that's it for our deep dive today. We covered a lot of ground, but hopefully you walked away with some new insights and maybe even more questions. Until next time, stay curious.